Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the latest episode of the Morning Bulletin here on the Blood Red channel. I'm your host, Edward Kay. Joining me this morning is James Martin, and of course, we're going to start by talking about Liverpool's Premier League season opener yesterday. A pretty hard-fought 1-1 draw at Stamford Bridge against Chelsea. I don't think anybody could call it a boring game. Maybe not as many goals as people were expecting, given how poor defensively, Liverpool have been in pre-season. And I mean, we know Chelsea's defence is a bit makeshift at the moment, despite having spent however much over the last three windows since Tom Bowley's come in. But, I mean, in the end, probably got to be happy with a draw on balance, haven't we, James?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, given the situation as it is, obviously we wouldn't have wanted to go into the season with what is, to all intents and purposes, an incomplete squad. But that's the situation we've ended up in. And, in that context, going to Stamford Bridge and getting a point, yeah, it's a decent result. I mean, I know Chelsea were a bottom half side last season, but you kind of have to expect, like you say, with the money that's been spent, that they'll be targeting much bigger things this year. They'll want to be. I mean, they'll want to be in the title conversation. They could be in the top four conversation. So, yeah, it's a decent away point given the circumstances. But yeah, I think the game panned out more or less as anyone would have expected. Really, you could tell why both sides were after Caicedo. It was ridiculously open, and just sort of highlighted what still needs to be done.
Yeah, as you say, no real surprises yesterday, were there? From Liverpool in terms of what we saw, it was attacking prowess and defensive frailties, which I would imagine is what most of us were probably expecting after the pre-season we've seen.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think it finished up with something like 17 goals scored and maybe 10 or 11 against in pre-season. Can't remember exactly, but big numbers at both ends. And yeah, like you say, the only surprise maybe was that it wasn't a higher scoring draw, maybe a 2-2 or something along those lines. Both sides missed chances to score more. So yeah, it was fun to watch. I'm sure the neutrals enjoyed it more than Liverpool and Chelsea fans. But yeah, that's not the way to go about a whole season. It's, as we say, like, it's not news to any Liverpool fans. It's not news to anyone in the recruitment team either. You'd hope. It's pretty obvious the kind of profile Liverpool needs and the kind of profile Liverpool is looking for. The only thing you'd say is maybe John Henry, watching on, might have at least seen something valuable. I mean, clearly he's also aware of the need given the massive bid that was sanctioned for Caicedo. But yeah, Liverpool needs someone in there. Clearly, Caicedo, we'll get to him in a second, but he's not an option anymore. So it can't just be, well, we didn't get the man we were willing to go big on, so we'll chance our arms, see how we get on. It's clear that someone needs to come in for that role as soon as possible.
Yeah, nobody in yet, which did leave Alexis McAllister performing that number 6 role yesterday. I mean, he impressed at times, but I think most of the times he impressed was going forward. You think of that ball to Salah for Luis Diaz's goal, but he did look exposed defensively a few times, didn't he? And we just didn't really have enough possession or control throughout the game. And when you're playing against a side like Chelsea, you are going to get punished for having somebody who's not really used to that number 6 role, aren't you?
Yeah, definitely. And much as they're also looking to spend big on that midfield, they do have Enzo Fernandez, who, until Caicedo gets done, was the record midfield signing, and he is unfortunately an excellent footballer. So he did give them that kind of edge, I suppose, in the midfield battle. Obviously, Liverpool has some very good midfielders of its own, but not really any of those kind of controlling figures. Liverpool were pressing well and winning some battles higher up the pitch, but there was no one in there to sort of break up play and then sort of stamp a bit of an assertive touch on the midfield there. So yeah, it was a bit chaotic, and the only time any team really established any kind of control, it was Chelsea, and I think that was the influence of Fernandez. You saw how press resistant he was. He was sort of dancing through the Liverpool midfield at times. So yeah, it definitely showed what's still missing. There's maybe reason to be optimistic that Thiago could be that kind of figure, but we all know about his fitness. We've seen it since he arrived, so it's not something Liverpool can rely on. And obviously he wasn't ready for this one. So yeah, it's a tricky one. It's a tricky one, and yeah, like I say, I don't think we've learned anything new. We knew that there was this midfield need there already, so hopefully that happens sooner rather than later now.
Yeah, as you say, I think a few people were I know giving Chelsea a lot of stick last season for the price they paid for Enzo Fernandez, but I mean, I think we saw it in flashes last season why they paid that money for him, and we definitely saw it pretty much the whole game yesterday. Was top quality, but Liverpool, as we say, we didn't have anyone like that really in our midfield. Didn't get on the ball enough. Didn't have enough possession, enough control because of how attacking that midfield was with Cody Gakpo in there and without a real number 6. And that, I think the biggest impact of that was it meant we couldn't really get Trent on the ball enough. So in terms of creativity, sort of limited in terms of what we got from him in that new role. But Jurgen Klopp clearly wants to persist with that role. And would you expect that we see a bit more of Trent on the ball next week against Bournemouth, hopefully?
Yeah, I'd have thought so. I mean, given the mismatch there in terms of the quality of the side, it's one way he should be able to dominate a bit more. Liverpool will see a lot more possession. Hopefully, we see more of the kind of Alexander-Arnold we saw, at the back end of last season. He was maybe a bit quieter than I'd hoped in pre-season, to be fair. But yeah, I think hopefully we'll soon see that come to the fore again. And I think signing a proper defensive midfielder will help that. That gives him the kind of platform to be a bit more expressive. And we did see it in flashes against Chelsea. He did get the assist for the Salah goal that was chalked off for the marginal offside, and that was a very clever pass. That was sort of classic Alexander-Arnold, if you like. But yeah, I'd like to see more of that, and I think that it is all tied in with the need for a number 6. And yeah, thank you to the comments section. I've had a look there and seen that the Guardian are reporting about Liverpool agreeing a fee with Southampton for Romeo Lavia, 60 million apparently, which sums up how Southampton must have just been absolutely loving this whole Caicedo saga, because it just lets them charge whatever they like now for Lavia, really, doesn't it? We were saying he's not a £50 million player, and he's definitely not a £60 million player, but Liverpool needs someone. So yeah, clearly the money has been stumped up. Chelsea is still in the conversation though, so maybe we'll be looking at a whole new saga over the next few days. But yeah, I mean, it sounds like already our question's been answered, and Liverpool is well aware that it still needs to go big in that position.
Yeah, I think I said on a stream the other day, I said I wouldn't be surprised, and I don't think you could blame Southampton if they turned around and said, actually, it's 60 million now. And if that is indeed true and that is what they have done, then I don't think Liverpool can have too many complaints, really. But as you say, everybody knows it was clear before yesterday, and it was certainly clear after yesterday how desperately Liverpool do need a number 6. And I just wanted to touch on this whole Caicedo saga, because, I mean, like you say, in the comments, people suggesting we might have a deal in place for Lavia, but sort of before we came on the stream this morning, all the indications were that he might also be going to Chelsea as well. And it's been such a long time since Liverpool have been embroiled in this kind of transfer saga. And I mean, I understand the Caicedo one a lot more, especially when you look at the contract he's been offered. I think it's until 2031 with an option until 2032. So he's probably been offered about, I mean, God knows what wages they've offered him, but they're definitely more than what Liverpool have offered him. Let's say, I don't know, 200 odd grand a week for 9 years. I don't think anybody can really be turning that down, can they? So you can see why he has chosen Chelsea. But in terms of Lavia, I mean, lots of people, again, in the comments suggesting that it's up to the player to choose between Chelsea or Liverpool. Could you see why he would really, besides the money maybe and wanting to live in London, could you see why he would want to go to Chelsea and probably be a backup for Moises Caicedo?
No, not really. It's, I mean, they have too many players in that position already, to be honest. I mean, we touched on Enzo Fernandez. He is better, not as a 6, but, he is the world records midfielder as of now. That won't be the case in the next few hours, but, he is that kind of more controlling presence. Caicedo will come in, so he'll take over the deep role there. And then, they signed Leslie as well, who's also pretty much an out-and-out defensive midfielder. He's possibly more of a project, but I mean, it's hard to see how that project ends if they go ahead and sign Caicedo and Lavia, because there's absolutely no room in that number 6 position for, a decade. And Lavia will be looking at a similar picture with Caicedo there. He'll be going, there's just no chance of getting minutes here. And whereas at Liverpool, you look at it and go, well, I am the solution to their single biggest problem. There's a much more appealing sort of pitch, if you like. He can come in and turn Liverpool from sort of top 4 challengers back to hopefully competing for the biggest honours. And, there's a question mark over whether Liverpool have picked the right person for that, given that he has one season of Premier League football under his belt. He's a teenager, but the options are sparse. He's clearly very, very promising. So, yeah, Liverpool seem to have picked him now, having not got Caicedo, as the solution to the problem, and yeah, that should be very flattering for Lavia, and surely more of a tempting proposition than, like you say, probably sitting on the bench at Stamford Bridge.
Yeah, and as you say, just such a lack of realistic and top quality number 6 options. I think it is a bit of a gamble going for Lavia, but I think it's a gamble at this point. Liverpool have got to take it and hope it pays off. But with obviously FSG have sort of shown the hand, we know the money's there. If a deal is agreed for £60 million with Lavia, we know there's another 50 million kicking about somewhere. Do you think Liverpool need to go out and get another rotation midfielder or maybe another centre-back? And do you have anyone in mind at all?
I'd probably be looking at a centre-back as the next priority. The midfield, I would like another one in an ideal world. We were talking about wanting another one in an ideal world before Fabinho and Henderson left. So I think it should probably go without saying that we really should be getting 2 more. But if you do get Lavia in, then at least that area of the pitch looks workable. Injuries will suddenly make that picture look a bit more worrying, which is why we want someone else in. But you'd have Lavia, Szoboszlai, McAllister as a starting 3, which is really strong on paper. And then you've got backup from Thiago, from Curtis Jones, from Harvey Elliott, and Bajcetic. That's a pretty good rotational cast. So, yeah, like I say, it's still a risk because of injuries, but that's usable. I wouldn't be too upset if Liverpool ended the transfer window with that, even though I'd want someone else. But in the defence, I think it's far too big a risk to leave it alone. I like Liverpool's centre-back options for the most part, but 3 out of 4 of them are injury prone. That's pretty unavoidable, to be honest, when you look at their sort of long-term records. And then, Van Dijk is 32. Joel Matip, I think, is 32 now. If not, he turns 32 this month. He's certainly coming up to it. So these are not long-term players at this stage. Hopefully, particularly Van Dijk, can continue for a good couple of years yet. But, you have to at least sort of put a contingency plan in place for a decline, and you'd want to have the succession plan through the door as soon as possible, really. We've seen Liverpool do that before, where they've kind of phased in replacements slowly, and that does seem like the best way of doing things. So, yeah, and then of course there's the left-sided centre-back role. We saw Robertson have a little bit of trouble against Chelsea. I'm not of the mind that he needs to be, binned off straight away. I think he can play a role in this new system, and I think last season, back end of it, was evidence for that. That was Liverpool's best run of the campaign by far, and he did very well in that role. But it's not perfect. He obviously likes to bomb forward. He's a natural offensive fullback, and that can leave gaps. Chelsea tried to exploit it a lot. So yeah, just another option there. Maybe for certain fixtures, maybe just to put a bit of pressure on Robertson. But that kind of left-sided centre-back figure who can play that role as well, while also maybe being the long-term successor to Van Dijk, which is a big ask, particularly for 50 odd million or whatever's left in this kind of hypothetical pot that we've put together for ourselves here. But yeah, I think for me that's the next priority after Lavia.
Yeah, I think Robertson copped for it a bit yesterday, to be fair to him. I think with that, having Gakpo as the 8 on that left side didn't get a lot of help. And I mean, I said on the stream yesterday, I've not seen a lot of Raheem Sterling in a Chelsea shirt, but that was one of the best appearances I've seen from him. And obviously Reece James down that side, they were linking up quite well while they were both on the pitch. So yeah, I think he copped for it a bit yesterday with the setup. And I mean, we've seen throughout the summer people putting together all these lineups without Robertson in. I'm with you. I don't think you can be binning off a player of his quality, and he's certainly a leadership figure within the club. But as you say, it remains to be seen what Liverpool do with this hypothetical budget. We will, of course, keep you updated with any Romeo Lavia news that breaks today and throughout the rest of the week, and hopefully with any other transfer rumours or actual bids from FSG, which would be nice. But for now, that is all we've got time for on the Morning Bulletin here today. So, James, thanks for joining me, and we'll catch you next time.